All right, new year means we are going to try some new things out here at DNVR Avalanche. Bringing back the mailbag. I've never done the mailbag, and I want to do it a little bit different if I was going to take over for it. So we're going to try it out this week. You guys were great, as always, flooded with responses. You guys always show up whenever we ask for questions, so I appreciate it. We're going to try to get through as many of these mailbag questions as we can, and then if you guys like it, we'll bring it back next week, and we'll do it all over again. But let's get into it, starting off here on Twitter. Look, I mean, I stand firm that Sam Girard has way more trade value than people give him credit for. This is a bona fide top 4 defender in the NHL. I still think on most teams, on most nights, he's a top pairing guy. He would have more value. I don't think either of those guys get moved at the deadline. I think the Avs are all in to try to go back-to-back. They got to get there first, but I think they're all in. I think they're holding on to this group as much as possible this year. Look, I mean, in terms of the Avs and the next deal for Bo, after the showing he had in the playoffs, you were worried that was he maybe going to price himself out. With the injuries again this year, and honestly, for me, what's maybe even a little bit more concerning is it's a different injury. Well, I shouldn't say more concerning, but hey, look, you're now dealing with a different injury that has held you out for most of the season to this point. Jared Bednar just told us it's probably going to still be a couple more weeks. I definitely think this keeps the cost down, but a lot of it will depend on what Bowen Byram does in the back half of the season into the playoffs. That'll really affect that. I think you're probably looking at some type of bridge deal here where Byram's going to bet on himself a bit, see if he can't score big in another 2-3 years after that next deal. The mittens are always at the ready, and I'm assuming the second part of this is a joke because no. Look, I have long been a John Gibson fan. Actually, even this offseason, he was one of the guys that I had on my list that the Avs may potentially target. Look, you are committed to Georgiev for the next 3 years. It's at a low dollar amount. Given what he's shown you to start this season, I think you feel very comfortable with him and Francouz as your 1-2 at that price point. As much as I've liked Gibson in the past, no, I don't think John Gibson should be an option here in Denver at this time, given that you've had a great start from Georgiev to the season, despite a few games here of struggles, and a very competent backup in Pavel Francouz. Both of Avery's questions here on the board. Yes, I do think Gabe Landeskog will at some point play a full 82-game season again. When that is, I don't know, but I do think that at some point in his career he will hit 82 one more time. And look, the second part of this, if he plays before, I'm not really sure at this point. Jared Bednar confirmed to us yesterday that, yes, they are expecting him back at some point, but there was some chatter amongst us media folks that, hey, look, if you're talking right at the end of the season, is there the temptation to go the LTIR route and bring in someone with that extra cap space and hold Landy out till the playoffs? I don't think that's the plan for the Avalanche as of right now, but as this continues to take longer and longer for Landeskog to come back, I definitely think him sitting out until the playoffs is on the table. I didn't get a chance to ask him about it before answering this question, but I do believe it was a country, and I think it was maybe even more specific, like a city, something like that. It was definitely some type of geographical location. I've just always assumed, somewhere Sweden where he's from. No, I don't believe they did. I think that was more of a deal where the Maple Leafs had a fit for Timmins. He was wanting to go back, not necessarily to Toronto. That's where he's from. He's got a lot of family there. Obviously, with the early struggles he's had in his career, it kind of made sense. So I think that was a deal that really was worked out between Toronto and Arizona, not as much the Arizona Coyotes shopping him and the Avs maybe missing out on a chance to bring a guy like that back. You guys all know I've been a big Connor Timmins fan since he broke into pro hockey. Horrible injury luck for him. I think that is a guy who can have a great NHL career if he can just stay healthy. But no, I don't think the Avs are in on it. I'm really going to lean into that nobody is mentioned here, and I was actually just having this conversation yesterday with Peter Baugh at the rink. He was showing me his kind of trade deadline list, and I said, here, I've got one for you that I just think is kind of interesting. I haven't necessarily heard these rumors anywhere, but it's more of just me adding one and one together here to see maybe a potential fit. Kevin Hayes in Philadelphia things are not going well with him in Torts. He's having a decent offensive season, but there is just something that is not working with Kevin Hayes and John Tortorella. This is a guy that the Avs have had serious interest in the past. They've tried to get him when he was a free agent. There have been talks about them bringing him in via trade over the last several years. It's never worked out. Now, Kevin Hayes does have a deal that runs through 2026, about a cap hit of around $7 million. So obviously you would need to make some things work. But again, this is a guy who has some term beyond this year, so it's not a straight rental. 6'4" center that could slot in right behind Nathan MacKinnon for the next couple of years. Look, you'd have to move some money around, but this goes back to that question from just a couple of minutes ago. If you were to put Landeskog on LTIR, is there a fit here that makes sense? I'm not really sure. Like I said, you'd have to move some money around. Philly would have to eat at least a portion of that contract, if not the full 50% that they are allowed to hold on to. So again, this one's a bit of a swing, but the question said that nobody has thought of. This is a guy that I think nobody's thought of, and I'm just saying it's not going well under the new coaching regime in Philly. Is there maybe a fit at 2C for Kevin Hayes in Colorado? We'll have to wait and see. I'll answer the back half of this question first. Nobody, I don't think, is at risk of being lost this summer, maybe outside of like JT Compher, but I think we're all kind of expecting that anyways. He was kind of my one that if the cap actually was going to jump, could they maybe find a way to keep him here? But with it only going up by $1 million, really, this is more about not this offseason, but what ramifications does that have beyond this offseason? When we were thinking that we were going to get a multi-million-dollar jump this summer, that meant, well, we're probably going to get another multi-million-dollar jump next summer. The Avs are probably now staring down being able to keep Rantanen, Taves, all of their upcoming pending UFAs. With it only being $1 million this year, that leaves in question what we end up with next summer, and that's where the Avs are really going to have to do, some juggling. Joe Sakic, Chris McFarland are going to have to work some magic on that one. But honestly, in this immediate, it doesn't really impact them too much. But right now, the idea is that with the cap line moving up $1 million, you're probably losing JT Compher this summer. Again, that's not really news. But the big risk is you're going to lose one of Devon Taves and Mikko Rantanen, and I can almost guarantee you the Avs aren't going to lose Mikko Rantanen. So the Avs need that cap to move if you're wanting Devon Taves here long term. I don't have an exact answer for this. Jared Bednar told us that he wasn't progressing. He wasn't really reacting to the treatment. Now he is, and he is on that road back. So some good news for Byram. They are staying consistent that it is lower body. My best guess, and this is a guess, is that we're dealing with something like a high ankle sprain. That's the only thing that I can think of that would have this kind of inconsistency, that would be this hard to come back from on an injury, where you think you're going to get close, then you're not. You think you can skate, then you can't. High ankle sprain or something like that is what I think he's dealing with, but the Avs, notoriously tight-lipped, aren't giving us much on Bo. I just talked about this one a little bit on the salary cap question. Look, I think they'd like to. I think he means a lot more to this team internally than people really realize. I have a hunch that they may look at this guy like their version of Tampa's Andre Palat and maybe find a way to keep this guy at a bit of a market discount. But look, JT Compher got his Stanley Cup. He's having maybe one of the best seasons of his career right now. He is going to be in line to get a nice paycheck from someone out there. I wouldn't blame him for a second if he went somewhere else, but I think the Avs love JT Compher. I think they're going to do their best to hold on to him, but right now I would say odds are JT Compher moves on. The payday will just be too big. So this is an interesting team right now. Again, this was another topic of conversation at practice yesterday amongst some of the media. What does St. Louis do? Do you now just officially say, hey, we're going to punt on this season. We're hitting the halfway point. We're without Vlad Tarasenko and Ryan O'Reilly for a month to a month and a half. Is it time for them just to hit the sell button? The other big problem here is those two guys that I just listed are their two biggest trade pieces, both of them pending UFAs, with popular opinion being that they will both be moved in the summer if they are not traded by the deadline. Ryan O'Reilly is an interesting one. Look, I've said it the last couple of years that ironically the two of the best players that would be best fit for that Avs second line behind Nathan MacKinnon before Nazem Kadri broke out a little bit last year, would have been Matt Duchene and Ryan O'Reilly. So the fact that you maybe have the opportunity to bring one back here in Ryan O'Reilly to play that 2C role, I know he still gets along with the guys. I know guys still see him in the summer. They go out and get dinner when, they're either in St. Louis. St. Louis is here. So I think it would be a fit. I think fans maybe have a bigger issue than Ryan O'Reilly than the team. What does it cost? You're definitely talking your 2023 first, and then probably one additional piece. I don't know if that's an Oscar Olausson type, or if they're looking for someone maybe who's a little bit more polished, a little bit more ready for Ryan O'Reilly. I do know this. Teams have thought that the rental prices were a bit high in the last couple of years. I also think that with Ryan O'Reilly having a little bit of a down year for him this year, in addition to the fact that the trade deadline is March 3rd, you look at that timeline of 4 to 6 weeks, he's coming back mid-February. Man, I don't know. I think that may drop the value just a little bit. So maybe that is someone that works for the Avs that would fit. Obviously, he knows some of the guys. Maybe that does make sense for the Avs. I think it starts with your 2023 first. And I don't know, if maybe the market just isn't there, if GMs are saying the prices were too high the last couple of years, maybe you are talking a guy like a Martin Couch, Shane Bowers. Those 2023 firsts have a lot of value. Again, it could end up being more than that, but I have just heard that the prices were a bit high the last couple of years, and GMs are going to shy away from that. So you may be able to get away with it with a first-round pick and then a mid to high-level prospect. Of course, all of that is with the understanding he's in a similar boat to what we talked about a minute ago with Kevin Hayes. $7.5 million cap hit for Ryan O'Reilly. If St. Louis is going to eat any of that, that definitely drives the price up a bit. Avs would have to do something to make the money work, but he's definitely an interesting option. Look, I'm a big Logan O'Connor fan, huge fan of the way that he plays the game. I think he does it the right way. I make the joke all the time that if he had this much more skill, Logan O'Connor is a bona fide top 6 player in the NHL. Look, I think it's possible that he could find a little bit more finish to his game. He's in a system that works really well for the way that he plays. He's got a coach that likes him. His teammates like him. He's been trusted with more ice time this year more than ever, and I thought he's handled it great. He's in a situation to set himself up to succeed. If he can ever get there and become a 10 or 15 goal scorer, I don't really know. I think he does everything the right way. If he can find a little bit more finish, he's right there. All right, I'll be honest. I've looked, I've dug, I've tried to find one. A lot of the defenseman ones, Cale Makar is going to break. He is just going to catch those ones. Nathan MacKinnon currently sits number 4 in all-time franchise shots. He's pretty close. I imagine he'll catch Milan Hajduk, who's number 2 within the next season or two, but he's still got quite a ways to go before he gets to Joe Sakic at number 1. So I just will take the cop-out answer that someone had put in a reply. I think it'd be fun to see this organization go back-to-back on Stanley Cups. They've never done it. They should have done it. They actually, I think this organization could have had 3 in a row, 01, 02, 03. They've never done it. I think it'd be a ton of fun to see this group go back-to-back, something this organization has never done before, and I think they got the group to do it. More money than you could believe, Ryan. All right, I should have known this one was coming, and we'll end here. I'm going to give you the ultra abridged version. Basically, everyone saw what happened on Twitter that night. Tim Peel had made a couple comments on one of my posts a couple nights before. I had gotten into like a very casual kind of exchange. I thought he was kind of being tongue-in-cheek. Well, a couple nights later, he didn't like some of the stuff that I had said. So he got on there and started kind of taking some shots. Everyone was great. Everyone came to my defense. People from all over the hockey community were talking about it, making jokes, all that stuff. Long story short, Tim Peel reached out the next day and basically said, hey, my bad, definitely not cool. Shouldn't have done it that way. Shouldn't have done it. buried the hatchet. He and I are all good. I've reached out to him a couple times on some questions now in terms of officiating and rules and things like that. He's been great. Tim's a good dude. Got a little caught up in the moment. He's a St. Louis native. He was a Blues fan. It was during the second round of the playoffs. But he and I are all good. Hatchet is buried. Definitely a funny, entertaining night that kept me up to the wee hours of the night in my St. Louis hotel room. Okay. I think we're good. I think we got all of them. If you guys like this, we'll bring it back again next week, and we'll just keep doing this throughout the season. As always, thanks for watching, guys.